Hi, this is Baron Stevens again, and today I'm going to talk about the fourth video in my series on tonal flexibility on the primarily saxophone today. Clarinet's a little bit of a different animal, though got some similarities. I'm just going to talk about alto and tenor altissimo fingerings today. Now in the previous three videos, in video 1 we talked about mouthpiece pitch. In video 2 we talked about flexibility and being able to, like, from palm D on alto, from the palm F or F sharp on tenor, and then from the high C on clarinet. And then the third one we talked about the overtone series, or doing the bugle songs. So each of those is kind of developing our flexibility inside our throat. Now with altissimo, first of all I should say, if you have no interest in ever playing altissimo, that's fine. Those first three videos, though, I think are essential even if you don't want to do altissimo. But a lot of people do learn those other three things so they can get to the point where they can do the altissimo, which what altissimo is, it's the notes up above the normal range. Like normally you might think high F or F sharp is as high as the sax might go, because that's a lot of, as far as the fingering chart might go or whatever. But there are notes above that, notes that get screaming high. We can get quite a bit above. Saxophone can be a 4-octave instrument. What's written is normally only 2.5 octaves, but we can go 4 octaves. And I'm not going to get into all of those notes. There's a lot of different fingerings and all that. The main thing, if you get nothing else from this video, the main point I want to make is that it needs to be from in here, not from the jaw. Like a lot of us, when I was a teenager, I came across a fingering chart for altissimo notes, and I had no idea about doing this stuff in here. So I would do the fingering, and then I would work on it and have these horrible sounds, screeching, bright squeaks basically, just coming out. And but I finally would get the notes, and I'd be so happy, but my lip would be killing me, because I was, to get the reed to vibrate that fast, I was, driving my jaw into my lip, into the reed. And yeah, you can get the altissimo notes to work if you do that, but it hurts, and it doesn't sound as good either. Our goal with the altissimo notes is to get them to sound like an extension of the saxophone, not a bunch of controlled squeaks. And so that's what those first three videos help us do. And so and if you do have an interest in developing altissimo, spend some quality time, especially with the overtones. The flexibility gets us the raw muscle ability to move things in here, but the overtones gives us the control. And actually, when you're doing the upper overtones, you're also getting into the altissimo range. But definitely do not do this with the jaw. Learn to do it from in here. It'll save you a lot of anguish. Now, again, fingerings, there's a lot of different fingerings and again, you can look those up, but I'm going to work on teaching the certain series I teach to my students, because I think this is kind of a bridge to help us get used to using this flexibility and turning it into the altissimo notes. Now, first of all, we have these palm key notes, which get us up in the higher keys. So we have a palm E, top two side keys, and this first two side keys, and this top side key here. And that gives us the palm E. And most of the time I'm going to use that if I'm playing that high E above the staff. But there's another fingering for high E, which feels a little bit different and sounds just a little bit different, though I try to make the two sound the same. But it's like fingering the high G, so just the top three fingers. But then we also roll into this. Now, a lot of saxophones, after you learn the BAG here, there's this extra key up here. Sometimes it's a gold key like mine is. Sometimes it's just another pearled key, and we've been ignoring it for now. But once we get into altissimo, that's when we start using this thing. So if we finger a G but then roll up onto this front key, it'll give us another fingering for the high E. And so there that one is. But it feels a little bit different. Sometimes when people first do it, like a lot of my students, when we first explore this, the note won't come out for them because they haven't quite figured out where it feels. But once you do, then that opens up the ability to start playing up higher into the altissimo range. So there's the front E, and then of course then we have the palm F. But if we finger an A, so just the top two fingers, and then roll onto that key, Now we have another way of fingering F. And again, it feels different than the palm key. But usually it's not too hard to get those two to come out at first. And then, of course, most modern saxes now have this high F sharp key. But some of the older saxes and student saxes do not. So a lot of times, if you had one of those horns that didn't have that key, you thought, well, stinks because all these other guys have a high F sharp key. Well, you can still play high F sharp. But here's the palm F sharp. But now, it's like fingering a side B flat where you got the top two fingers down and this bottom side key. And then we of course, again, we then go on to this front key here. And now we have an F sharp. And so we can still kind of somewhat consider those normal range, though again, they feel different when we use these front fingerings. Now we're definitely going to explore into the altissimo. Now it's this next fingering is kind of like doing a 1 and 1 B flat, which I normally don't recommend doing, and then the bottom side key, but then then we roll on to the front key here. So, or if you just think front key, top right hand key, bottom side key. So there's a high or an altissimo, a real life altissimo G. And then to get a G sharp, we just lift off this top key here. And that one's a very narrow target. It's kind of tricky to find in here. So be patient and just kind of slowly work your way up there. And then once you get to the F sharp or the G sharp, then you can, there's a whole series of fingerings up there, and all sorts of variations. I won't get into that. There's still other fingerings also for the G and the G sharp, but that's the way I use to help people learn what it feels like to get into the altissimo. Now tenor sax is similar, though the fingerings do change slightly. Though it starts off pretty much the same though. Okay, so like just again the G. And then, so it's just like doing the G, but then rolling onto that to make it an E, A, to get us an F. Now, when we get to the F sharp, so again, if you have a tenor without an F sharp key, you can still play an F sharp, but it's different than alto. It's front key, top right hand key, bottom side key. And that gives us an F sharp. And then if I take that key off and just do the front key and the bottom side key, there's our G sharp. Or our G. Now G sharp, I'll go ahead and show you mine. I actually switch away from the front key. I do 2, 3, 1, 2 bottom side key. That's not, I could not find a G sharp that worked for me, so I had to make up my own. So to get my G sharp, and I just take off the side key to go to A. So that's a little bit different than the standard fingerings, but again, and I think part of the reason because I have such a low mouthpiece pitch where I normally keep things, so a lot of the recommended fingerings I've had to modify for my setup, for my horn, my mouthpiece, and what I do here. And that's going to be true of many of you. So there's not necessarily a one fingering fits all situations and works for everybody. So it's something that takes some time to study. You need to be serious about it, be careful about it. But good luck with it. It's a lot of fun to be able to get up there and do solos up into that altissimo range. But you want it to sound good. You don't want it to sound like a bunch of shrieking, squeaking racket. So anyway, again, if you have any questions, feel free to email me or put them at the bottom of this page here. And good luck.